everyone, my name is Leah and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about 21 books that I want to read in 2021. These are definitely not the only 21 books that I want to read, and I will definitely be reading more than this, but these are 21 of the books I am most excited to read this year, and this isn't including any books that come out in 2021. I'm going to save those books for my anticipated releases videos, so all of these will be books that were published 2020 or earlier. Since there are 21 books I want to talk about, I'm not going to go too into depth of the plot summaries of each book. I think I'll more just kind of touch on a little bit about each book and why I want to read each book. These won't be in any particular order. I just kind of listed a bunch of books that I want to read this year, and I'm going to talk about each of them. The first book is Jade City by Fonda Lee. Honestly, I don't know that much about this other than that it's adult urban fantasy. I've heard really good things. I know it's the first book in, is it a trilogy? I think there's 3 books out. I'm not completely sure. Honestly, I've tried to avoid information because I want to go in not really knowing that much. I know some like vague things about it, but I haven't really gotten any big spoilers, which is good because I don't want to know anything else before going into it. But I heard really good things about this book, and I want to read more adult fantasy this year, so I'm really looking forward to picking this one up. The next book I want to read is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, who is also known as Shauna Maguire. Mira Grant is another pen name that she writes under. I am really looking forward to reading this because I like all of the Shauna Maguire books that I've read. I've read Middle Game, which I adored. It was my favorite book of 2019. And I've read all of the Wayward Children books except for the newest one that has just come out, and I'm really looking forward to reading that. I'm not sure how much I'm going to like this just because it is a horror, and I haven't read that much horror, and I'm not really that much of a horror person, but I'm going to try it. I am really interested to try it. I know it has mermaids. I know there's some sapphic characters in it. So I don't know if I'll wait to read this until more of like October, November, because that's more of a creepy time of the year, but I definitely want to get to this at some point this year. The next thing I want to read is The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the first book in, I think, a quartet of books by this author. I don't have the 4th book, so if I end up really liking this, I'll have to get the 4th book from the library or something. But honestly, I used to know way more of what this was about, and now I'm not quite sure, and I don't really want to look up any more about it because I want to be surprised going in. But this is the first book in, I know, a like YA mystery, maybe like thriller type series. I feel like I'll pick this up when I want a like quick kind of fast-paced read because I just feel like that's going to be what this is, but I'm looking forward to picking this up. Then I want to get to all of the Rick Riordan books that I have that I haven't read yet, and I'm saying all of them because I want to get to all of them, but I'm going to say one book for the purpose of this video, and that is The Ship of the Dead, which is the 3rd Magnus Chase book. I read the first 2 books and really enjoyed them, but I haven't gotten around to this 3rd book yet. I also haven't read past book 1 of the Trials of Apollo series. I think I own book 2. I don't own any of the other books, I don't think. But specifically I want to get to this. I want to get to the Trials of Apollo books. And I also want to get to the Kane Chronicles books because I think I only read book 1 or books 1 and 2. I'm not completely sure. But I want to finally catch up on these because I've been behind for a little while. I also have already gotten some spoilers, not for this, but for something that happens in one of the Trials of Apollo books. So hopefully I won't get any more spoilers until I actually read these. The next book I want to read is King of Scars by Leigh Bardugo. This is the next book in her Grishaverse, and I meant to read this last year. I actually picked it up, I read like 2 pages, and then I never got around to it because after that I hit a reading slump and then I didn't read anything for a bit. So I finally need to read this year. I don't want to say too much about the plot of this because it is later on in her series, but I feel like most people have heard of Leigh Bardugo and have heard of this book, and I'm looking forward to finally picking it up. And I feel like I've heard some mixed things about it, so I'm a little nervous to pick it up, but I'm also excited to read it. The next book I really want to read is The Starlight C by Erin Morgenstern. I read The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern in 2019, and it was one of my favorite reads of that year. And I've been meaning to pick this up ever since, but I haven't gotten around to it, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. I feel like I'll love it because I love The Night Circus, but I'm also not sure how exactly I'll feel about it. I have seen some people who didn't like The Night Circus like this, and I feel like I've seen some people not like this who like The Night Circus. I'm not sure, but I'm really interested to pick this up and to see what I think of it. And this is another book that, again, I don't know that much about. I know it's an adult fantasy. That's kind of all I want to know because I just knew that I wanted to pick it up because I liked The Night Circus. So we'll see what this is about when I get to it. The next book I want to read is another Leigh Bardugo book, and that is Ninth House. I know this is adult. I think it might be dark academia. I'm not completely sure. I've heard that this is a lot darker than her other works, and I'm intrigued to see if I will like it. I've heard very mixed things about it, so I'm not sure if I will end up enjoying it, but I'm really interested to pick it up because I have enjoyed everything else by Leigh Bardugo that I've read. The Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom are definitely my favorite things by her that I've read. But I'm intrigued to see kind of how her writing shifts for an adult book rather than the YA that she usually writes. I'm sorry the lighting keeps changing. It is afternoon, so the sun is beginning to set and it keeps changing all of the lighting in this room. The next thing that I want to read is Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. I just recently finished reading the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, and I absolutely love it so much, and I'm really looking forward to reading more works by Robin Hobb. I've heard this series is even better than the Farseer trilogy, and I adored books 1 and 2 of that series. I liked book 3, but less than books 1 and 2. I'm really looking forward to reading this and seeing different characters that Robin Hobb has written, because this, I believe, takes place in the same universe as the Farseer trilogy, but it has a completely different plot, follows completely different characters. I know that it deals with like sentient ships, which sounds like a very interesting plot line, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing what Robin Hobb does. And I'm just really looking forward to reading more by Robin Hobb because she has quickly become a favorite author of mine just with the Farseer trilogy. This is a bit of an intimidating book because you can see it's rather thick. It's 880 pages, so I think this will take a bit to get through, but I'm really looking forward to reading it. The next thing I want to read is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon, and this is another book where I don't really know that much of what it's about, but I am really looking forward to reading it. I've heard some really good things about it from some friends, and I've also heard that a bunch of the characters are queer, and I've just seen good things about it lately. And I also want to pick up another book by Samantha Shannon later, which I'm also going to talk about in this video, but I think I want to read The Bone Season first so I can see how her writing has evolved. I know this is adult fantasy, that's kind of what I know about it, and I'm really looking forward to picking it up. Next, I guess I'll mention the other Samantha Shannon book that I want to read, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree. Honestly, don't know that much about this other than there's dragons, or a dragon. I know dragons are in it. I know it is sapphic. I know it is long. That book is a chunker, so I am also intimidated by that book in addition to Ship of Magic. I want to read more adult fantasy. I especially want to read more sapphic adult fantasy, so that's something I really want to do this year. I'm really looking forward to reading all of Samantha Shannon's books. The next book I want to read is Surrender Your Sons by Adam Sass, and this is a YA contemporary thriller, I think is the kind of the combo of genres this is. I know this takes place at a gay conversion therapy camp, and I've heard good things about it. I'm really looking forward to reading it. I've been wanting to read it since before it came out, so I really am hoping that I will get around to it this year. The next thing I want to read is The Bone Shard Daughter by Andrea Stewart, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is fantasy. I know it is also sapphic, and this was one of my friend's favorite fantasy books of last year, if not her favorite book of last year. I'm not completely sure, so I am really looking forward to reading this. Again, don't know that much of the plot. I kind of just want to go into it not knowing that much and be surprised, because all I really need to know is that it's fantasy, it's sapphic, my friend enjoyed it. I'll try pretty much anything that's sapphic fantasy. I just realized I don't even know if this is a standalone or if it's the first in a series. I really should know more about these books. Well, it's the first in a series, maybe a duology because I only see a second book listed, but the second book is coming out in November this year, so maybe I will get around to reading the first book before that, and then I'll read the first book and the second book soon after. The next book I want to read is The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson, which is a sapphic sci-fi. Do I know much more about it other than that? No, not really. Again, if you just kind of put the words sapphic and fantasy or sapphic and sci-fi in front of me, I'm gonna want to read it. I've heard really good things about this book. I've seen a lot of people really enjoy it. I really want to read it. I've been wanting to read it since last year and just hadn't picked it up. So hopefully I will get around to it this year. I also want to try to read more sci-fi this year because I like both fantasy and sci-fi, but I definitely tend to read way more fantasy than sci-fi, and I want to kind of expand my sci-fi reading. And I realize I say that, but most of the books on this list of books I want to read this year are fantasy. Oh well. But with that said, I'll go ahead and talk about the other sci-fi book on this list, and that is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I've heard that this is like found family, space opera, and I have been wanting to read this, and I even more want to read it now because I read a novella by Becky Chambers last year, To Be Taught If Fortunate, and really enjoyed it. So I think I will almost definitely like this. This is also the first in a series. I only have the first book, but if I like this book enough, which I'm sure I will definitely continue on with the series. Also, I'm pretty sure this is queer. I don't know if it's sapphic. I'm pretty sure there are queer characters in it, but I will see, I suppose. Another non-fantasy book that I really want to read this year is Loveless by Alice Oseman. I read and loved all 3 volumes that are out of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman last year, and I also read and adored Radio Silence last year, so I'm really looking forward to reading this, especially because the main character is Ace, and I'm really hoping that I enjoy this. Now going back to fantasy, because apparently most of what I want to read this year is fantasy. We've got The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, which I feel like everyone has been yelling at me to read. I have been meaning to read. I was going to read this last year. I did not get around to it. I'm really looking forward to this, but I'm also scared because I feel like it's going to rip my heart into a million pieces, but I know I'm going to love it. I would be extremely shocked if I don't love this because I feel like pretty much everyone has, and I am really looking forward to reading this. I'm currently trying to decide if I am going to want to read the series like all together in one go and kind of let myself be emotionally destroyed for a while, or if I want breaks between the books because I'm going to be emotionally destroyed. I'm not sure. If you have an opinion on that, let me know what you think I should do. I am excited, but also scared. Another fantasy I really want to read is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. I read the 5th season last year, and it was one of my favorite books of the year. It was so good, and I really want to read books 2 and 3. I think it's just a trilogy. I'm so excited to read that because the 5th season was so good. And I also want to see where N.K. Jemisin is going to take the story from there. I am so interested in that. So I'm really looking forward to reading The Obelisk Gate. And hopefully also book 3, but I'm not going to put that on this list because I don't know if I'll get to it. We'll see. Next is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I know technically I think this book is called The Final Empire, but in the editions that I have, the first book is just called Mistborn. This will be my first Brandon Sanderson book. I'm really looking forward to reading it. I've heard good things about Mistborn, and I think this is a good place to start with Brandon Sanderson's books. I hope I'm not wrong about that because I think I do want to read this first, but I'm looking forward to finally reading this because I have been meaning to read this for probably like 3 or 4 years. So it is time that I finally get around to it. The next book I want to read is Descendant of the Crane, and honestly, again, I don't know that much about this book, but I've heard really good things. One of my friends really loves it, so I've been wanting to pick it up. This is a YA fantasy, and I've definitely read the plot summary before, but now I don't really remember what's in it, and that's fine. I'll go in not knowing much and be surprised. I think that's what I'm going to do with a lot of these books, honestly. I'm really looking forward to reading this, especially because the cover is so pretty. I'm so excited. The next book I want to read is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim, which is another YA fantasy, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. I've heard really good things. I believe this is kind of like a Mulan retelling. I know there's magic. I think the main character is a tailor. There's something related to clothing or something, but I'm really looking forward to reading this, and this also has a beautiful cover. Now we are on to the last book, and thank goodness because I don't think I can deal with this sun anymore. I don't even know where to go in the shot for the best angle of like the least weird sun, so I'm sorry you just have to deal with this weird sunlight. But the last book I'm going to mention is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I've heard such good things about this. This is an adult fantasy that's pre-Columbian inspired, and I've heard really, really good things. I also believe this is the first book in a series. I'm not sure how many books there's going to be, but I'm really looking forward to reading this. This also has a beautiful cover. There are so many books with beautiful covers I'm going to be reading. The sun is directly in my face again. I tried to make it better and fully did not succeed. Now I know better than to film at this time of the day, but I don't know what else I'm gonna do because sometimes this might be the only time of the day I have to film. So I'm very excited to read Black Sun. I am really, really looking forward to it, and I hope I enjoy it. I think I will, especially based on who has told me that I should read it. So I'm really looking forward to reading this at some point this year. So those are 21 books that I really want to read in 2021. Hopefully I will actually get to reading all of these. We'll see where I'm at in terms of that later on in the year. Please let me know some of the books you really want to read this year. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought. If any of these are books that you also want to read this year, I would be interested to know. I hope you liked this video. If you did, you can give it a like, and you can also hit subscribe. If you've made it this far in the video, let's say leave me a sun emoji down below because I had such a difficult time dealing with the sun today. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you later. Someone is knocking on my neighbor's door, and I can hear it, so I'm sure you can hear it on camera. I hear the children yelling again. Oh. When I lean forward, the sun is directly in my face. That is not pleasant. But I feel like most people have heard of Lee Bardugo. Oh my god, there's a child screaming. Oh my god, the sun is like right in my face. But I've heard some good things. I need the sun to stop.